everybody. We're here with Eric Garcia here, and we're going to take a look at cybersecurity practices from a not only a personal perspective, but we're going to take a look at them from a corporate perspective, how you protect your passwords and corporate identity, security, and credentials. And we're going to ask Eric on how he views this and what his take is on how to better protect yourself within the corporate environment and even on your personal in networking capacity. So, without further ado, Eric, take it away and introduce yourself.
Now, my name is Eric Garcia. I've been in the cybersecurity field for 14 years now, mainly in the defense sector. I worked in the military for about 6 years, and ever since then, I've been in defense sectors, AWS, companies like that, doing both
Mm-hmm.
government and non-government type of work.
Good, good deal. All right, so elaborate on your military background and as it applies to cybersecurity.
Yeah, so in the military, I did a few different things. I did help desk as well. I did governance, risk and compliance. I did some communication security, some ComSec, sysadmin work. But the majority of that was basically taking these cybersecurity programs for a base, because I was at the base level, and making sure the way I sum it up is making sure people weren't doing things they weren't supposed to do. So it was a lot of auditing, a lot of checking the network, checking policies and procedures, making sure everything was in line and they were meeting compliance requirements.
Mm-hmm. Very good. All right, so that sounds very useful for everybody. Let me ask you a couple questions here as it regards. I mean, let's just take a basic problem that everybody has. Everybody has this, and it's kind of one of the Achilles heels of passwords in general. Is that people like to use their favorite passwords and they like to reuse them. But if we could maybe dive into that a little bit and help the viewers understand that you maybe using the same password for everything is not really a great idea. What could you offer as some suggestions for a strong password and how people can better protect themselves, not only in their personal space within credentials, but in the corporate network as well?
So I'm not in the lab. I've definitely been guilty of this. What I started using recently was a password manager. That was a huge one for me. I hated it in the beginning. I'm not in the lie because every time you had to go in to get a password, you had to type in your password. And it was such a burden. It's an extra two steps. That's all it
Right.
is. But using a password manager, you can save all your passwords for all your different sites. You can upload files, whether you're using API keys or whatever. Just keep them stored in there, and that way you have that extra level of protection that you do not have to log into the password manager to get access to those passwords. And you can have 1,000 different passwords without having to remember each one. Because if you use different variations, like slight variations or patterns, password crackers can get through that very easily.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. So let's dive into that a little bit deeper. So you're saying that if you're using like slight variations of the password, those are easily crackable. Is that what you just said?
Yes. So I believe they use a pattern recognition. So if you use, for example, let's say and this is going to be a very high level example, don't use this password, but if you use 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, if you
Mm-hmm.
do that twice, that's easier. That's They can guess that easier than they can guess 1A, 2A, 3C
Ah,
underscore underscore, if that makes sense.
yes, it
But just
does.
add that
Totally
small
does.
variation versus doing two, like copy and paste twice instead of copy and paste twice, and leave the left character to change that. So that way it's not a
Okay.
pattern.
All right. All right. That's a good. That's a good one. So let me ask you this. So when you're okay, so let's just take another step on passwords there and multi-factor authentication. Okay.
Mhm.
So what can you tell us about multi-factor authentication? Why that's critically important to users, not only in the corporate environment but in their personal realm as well.
So MFA is just that additional step, almost like a password manager, from a more security standpoint. So basically, what that does is type in your password, and then ideally you will use some sort of like authentication app, whether it be Google Authenticator, Microsoft, a third-party app. And what it does is gives you a one-time use code that cycles every 60 seconds, 30 seconds or so. So then you put in that code with the website, and then it verifies that that's you because only you have that authenticator um, set up. If you use an SMS one, it still gets the same job done, but those are not as secure as using an authenticator app.
Okay, so let's dive into that a little bit more. So would an SMS not be as secure as like an authenticator?
So they've been finding ways to get around that recently. It's almost you hear a lot of these breaches happen. I believe Twitter was one of those examples where they requested a password reset. through, I believe it was through SMS or it might have been through email, but basically that code gets intercepted or it gets pushed to a phone number that wasn't supposed to be pushed to, and then that way they get the code, and then now they're able to log in. If you use an
Okay.
authenticator, that authenticator gets set up through a QR code that you physically are supposed to scan, and now it's in your phone in your possession.
Right. Okay. So that's a great point there. I'm glad you brought that up. So let me ask you this. So along personal devices, so we have corporate personal devices and we have like your personal devices. So what would be kind of your strategy for guarding and safeguarding? That just so you have an MFA device and but you still need to protect it. So what would be some of your safeguards or some of your ways that you protect those particular devices?
From a physical standpoint, it's just keeping in your possession. Don't leave it out of sight. Don't connect to um, like public networks. If you do, make sure you're using a VPN. Basically, just every stereotypical best practice that you hear about online, take those steps. They're there for a reason. There's an old saying that goes something along the lines of they make rules because it happened before. So those rules are in place because somebody did that and they're trying to mitigate that. So those best practices are in place in order to protect those vulnerabilities.
Okay. What? Let me ask you this. So, what? How would you know that your device has been compromised? I mean, how would you? I mean, what are some of the telltale signs about that?
I, for that one, it depends on the device itself. If we're talking about like laptops or phones, it could be running slower. You can see apps that weren't there before. If you see, basically trust your gut. Like as with everything else in life, if you see something that's like, hey, what is this about? Check it. You could also, I believe, a company Sophos has a mobile app that you can use. It's antivirus as well as device encryption. They have a because now they're distributing threat vectors through QR codes as well. So that one has a secure QR reader, so you can scan the QR code to make sure that it's safe before it continues on. So different
Okay.
software like that you can install on your mobile devices.
Okay. So let me ask you along those same lines there to say that how do we prevent ourselves from being a victim of a phishing attack?
So the approach that I take is I don't trust any links that come in, to be completely honest. So I recently started a business a year ago, and I've been using QuickBooks. I've never used it up until then. Now, like on a weekly basis, I get emails saying, "Hey, you're overdue on this payment. Submit it or call us or whatever."
Wow.
And it looks like a legit website. I checked the sender name, everything matched up, and I'm like, this is odd because what would I be overdue for? And I was tempted to like contact them. What I tend to do instead is go direct to the vendor website, in this case QuickBooks, give them a call directly. Don't trust any of the numbers on the email. Don't trust any of the links. Give them a call directly and tell them what the situation is. Hey, I got this email,
Ah.
and then
And
try to recommend it that way.
would you send it like to support at QuickBooks.com or something like that?
With the
How would
email,
you? Yeah.
no, the email I just leave it. I just leave it there. I don't forward it to anybody. I usually, if they ask like, "Hey, can you send it to us? Can you send a screenshot?" Then I would. But usually, I just give
Okay.
them a call directly to their support section or support session. I think they have a chat as well. But give them a call. Make sure they verify all of that information. And they did answer me like that's not us. One also differentiating factor: the email that I have for my QuickBooks account is not the same email that they're sending the email to. So once
Hmm.
I realized that, I'm like, well, if there was an overdue payment, it wouldn't be coming to this email; it'd be getting to a different one. But they're using my
Good
company.
one,
They're
Eric. That's a great one. That's a
I,
great
it took me a
observation.
while to get that one, but
Yeah,
they're
because then
using
you would know it's a spoof at that point in time.
exactly they're using my publicly available email, which is my corporate email address, to send that to versus the email that I actually used to sign up to the account.
Aha. Yes. So the funny thing is that's funny that you brought that up is that this morning I got an email from Allstate saying that I have a claim awaiting. It's being there's a claim that's being and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't use Allstate, and I'm pretty sure that if any of my kids would have been in an accident, they would have called me and said something about Allstate. So and it looked totally legit, and it was asking me to log in, and it looked, I mean, it looked just like it came from Allstate.
Right.
I mean, period. I mean,
That's how
no
the
doubt about it.
situation was.
And somebody that would not necessarily know about phishing, I can assure you that my gut instinct was to click on the link, but
So
I knew that this doesn't even pass the smell test here at all. So I just said nope, not gonna do it. And then I kind of figured out that it was a spoof. But the thing is that these links and these activities are real. These are real, and they're not only they're dangerous in a personal type of setting, but they're dangerous in a corporate setting. And attackers, they will prey upon the vulnerabilities of typical users because they're click happy. They just want to click, and they want to solve a problem, so they want to click it and make it go away. And that to me is probably one of the driving factors of why we have so many breaches in the first place, is because people are click happy, and they don't take a step back and say, like protecting the front door, okay? Like who's coming to the front door? We are very protective of that. We look outside the window.
Right.
We kind of check who's at the door. We don't even want to answer the door until we know exactly they've been verified. And so it's incumbent upon us as security professionals to help others understand that that front door is just like your password, just like email coming in, and you need to protect that at all costs, because if you don't, what will happen there is it's going to cost you time, possibly money, and possibly reputation.
Correct.
And if it's on a corporate network, it could even get worse. So those are the things. I'm glad that we brought that up today, Eric, and we had a great conversation. We will have more of these conversations, and we'll dive into more topics. But I do appreciate your time today, and thank you very much. So that wraps up our interview here with the Pixels TV. And again, I do appreciate Eric joining us on the show today, and we will have him on future editions. So thank you very much.
Thank you for
So
having me.
okay, very good. I'm going to conclude it now.